There is a moment, and you know this moment, because you have lived it more than once, when everything around you goes quiet in a way that has nothing to do with silence. The room may be loud, the city may be roaring, people may be talking, laughing, arguing, moving, but somewhere inside of you, a frequency drops. A hum settles into your chest like a bell that has just been struck, and in that stillness, you become aware of something you cannot name, something older than language, something that has been watching you your entire life, not watching you the way a stranger watches, watching you the way a river watches a stone it has been shaping for 1,000 years. That moment, that precise, inexplicable, spine-tingling moment is not random. It is not coincidence. It is not your imagination misfiring or your nervous system glitching under the pressure of an ordinary day. That moment is a transmission, and it is addressed to you, not to your neighbor, not to the person who grew up with every advantage you were denied, not to the one who got the job, the recognition, the applause, the early breaks. To you, the one reading these words right now, the one who has been misread, underestimated, passed over, flagged, dismissed, and reassigned by systems, by people, and sometimes even by yourself. This is where your story really begins. Let us talk about what it means to be flagged. In intelligence communities, when a system flags an individual, it is not always because that individual has done something wrong. Sometimes, and this is the part they never tell you in the briefings, a system flags someone because its own parameters cannot contain them. The algorithm was not built to process what it is encountering. The analyst stares at the screen. The data does not fit the existing categories. The profile refuses to resolve into something manageable. And so the flag goes up not as a warning about danger, but as an acknowledgement of anomaly, as a marker that says, this one does not compute, this one breaks the model, this one requires a level of attention that no standard protocol was designed to provide. Throughout history, every person who later changed the world was first flagged by the world they were about to change. Socrates was flagged by Athens. Joan of Arc was flagged by the church. Tesla was flagged by Edison's empire. Every prophet, every artist, every revolutionary, every healer who arrived before their time, they were all flagged first. The flag is not the end of the story. The flag is the beginning of the real one. You have to understand something about the nature of the chosen one that most people get completely wrong. The chosen one is not the one who was born into ease. The chosen one is not the one who sailed through life on inherited wines, whose path was cleared before they arrived, whose doors opened with a whisper rather than a hammer. The mythology of the chosen one has been so corrupted by popular culture, by the idea of the golden-haired hero, who was always destined, always obvious, always unmistakable, that most people who actually carry the mark have been trained to disbelieve it in themselves. The real chosen one is the one who was chosen precisely because of what they had to survive to get here. The hardship was not a mistake in the plan. The hardship was the plan. The desert years, the years of invisibility, the years of being the one in the room, whom nobody could quite understand or place. Those years were not punishment, they were preparation, they were the forge. And the thing about a forge is that it is uncomfortable from the inside. From the inside, it just feels like fire. From the outside, from the long view, from the perspective of the universe that has been shaping you all along, it looks like the making of something extraordinary. Think about the idea of an intelligence analyst being reassigned, someone trained to read patterns, trained to identify threats, trained to categorize and contain encounters your signal. And the encounter breaks their system. They are reassigned, not because you failed, because they could not handle the complexity of what they were encountering. This is a metaphor that lives in your life, and it has lived there for a long time. How many people have entered your life, encountered the full depth of who you are, and then retreated? How many relationships, jobs, communities, conversations have ended not because you were deficient, but because what you were offering was more than the other party had the capacity to receive? How many times have you been told you are too much, too intense, too curious, too sensitive, too driven, too unconventional, too strange, when the truth was simply that you were more than the container being offered to you? Every time someone could not hold what you were bringing, they were not revealing your flaw. They were revealing the skill of what you carry. The analyst was not reassigned because the subject was dangerous. The analyst was reassigned because the subject required a level of understanding that exceeded the current assignment. There is a spiritual law that most people discover only after years of confusion and searching, and it goes like this: the path of the one who is meant for something significant will almost never look like what success is supposed to look like in the early chapters. In fact, the path of the chosen one is often specifically designed to strip away every external marker of success, to remove the applause, the validation, the easy wins, the comfortable identity, until what remains is the irreducible truth of who you actually are beneath all the performance. This stripping process is brutal. It is not gentle. It does not come with a pamphlet that says, "Congratulations, you are being refined." It comes with loss, with silence, with the specific humiliation of watching people who seem to be playing a smaller game win the trophies while you stand in the corner trying to understand why your gift feels more like a burden than a crown. But here is what the stripping process is actually doing. It is making sure that when you finally arrive, and you will arrive as yourself, not as a performance of yourself, not as the version of you that was shaped by other people's approval, as a real, undefended, undiluted, unreduced version of the being that was sent here with a specific purpose that only you can fulfill. Let us speak for a moment about Tel Aviv, about the idea of being seen from a distance by systems powerful enough to reach across oceans. The imagery here is deliberate, because there is something about the chosen one's journey that involves being perceived at a distance, being tracked, being noticed by forces that are larger than the immediate environment. And before you assign this to ego, before you dismiss it as grandiosity, I want you to sit with the actual experience of your life and ask yourself, how many times have I been noticed in rooms where I thought I was invisible? How many times has something found me an opportunity, a person, a book, a moment in circumstances so specific, so perfectly timed, so inexplicably aligned with exactly what I needed, that coincidence simply cannot account for it. The universe has a targeting system, and it has had your coordinates for a long time. The flags that have been placed on you by institutions, by people, by systems that did not know what to do with you are not the only flags in play. There is another kind of flagging happening at a frequency most people cannot detect, the frequency of destiny, and it has been pinging your location since before you were born. I want to talk about what it feels like to carry a calling you cannot yet explain, because this is perhaps the most isolating dimension of the chosen one experience, the one that nobody warns you about and nobody has the language to fully describe. You know that you are here for something. You feel it in the marrow. You feel it in the way certain ideas light you up while everything ordinary dims. You feel it in the specific ache you carry when you are not moving toward it. You feel it in the way you can be in a room full of people and feel completely alone. Not because you are antisocial, not because you are broken, but because the conversation happening in the room has nothing to do with the conversation happening inside you, the one about purpose, about meaning, about what is actually possible for a human life when it stops performing and starts becoming. But you cannot always explain it, and the people around you cannot always receive it, and so you learn a particular kind of silence. Not the silence of having nothing to say, the silence of having too much to say and no audience yet built for it. That silence is not emptiness. That silence is gestation. Something is being prepared inside it. Something is growing in the dark that cannot be rushed. The spiritual traditions of every culture on earth have a concept for this, the sacred interval, the time between the calling and the manifestation, the time between the burning bush and the parting of the sea, the time between the annunciation and the birth, the time between the vision in the desert and the Sermon on the Mount. Every great story has this interval, and it is almost never acknowledged as sacred while it is being lived through. While you are in it, it feels like delay. It feels like failure. It feels like evidence that you were wrong about yourself, that the sense of destiny you have been carrying was delusion rather than revelation. But the interval is not dead time. The interval is where the capacity is being built to hold what is coming. Because what is coming for you is large. What is coming for you requires a version of you that does not yet fully exist. And the universe, in its infinite patience and its absolute precision, is not going to deliver the magnitude of what you are meant for to a version of you that is not yet ready to receive it. The interval is the curriculum. The waiting is the training. The silence before the storm is the storm. Consider the ones who came before you. Consider every person in history who was misread by their moment, who was too early, too different, too much, too complex for the systems that surrounded them. Consider how the world they were born into could not contain the world they were carrying inside them. And then consider what happened next. What happened next was not that they made themselves smaller to fit. What happened next was not that they accepted the verdict of the analysts who could not categorize them. What happened next was that they kept going, not always gracefully, not always with confidence, not always without doubt, but they kept going, and in the keeping going, in the refusal to make themselves digestible to systems that were not built to understand them, they became what they were always meant to become. And then the world slowly, reluctantly, sometimes posthumously, sometimes just in time caught up. The world always catches up. It catches up to the ones who do not wait for it to validate them before they begin. Here is something nobody tells you about the chosen one experience. It comes with a very specific and very persistent kind of enemy, and that enemy is not outside you, though there are external obstacle systems that resist you, people who dismiss you, structures that were not built for what you carry. Those are real, but the deepest enemy, the most sophisticated opposition you will ever face, lies in the gap between who you know yourself to be in your highest moments and who you allow yourself to be in your most ordinary ones. It is the voice that says, "Who do you think you are?" It is the habit of returning to smallness after every expansion. It is the comfort of the familiar, even when the familiar is a cage. It is the part of you that has made peace with not fulfilling your potential because the safety of the unfulfilled dream is more bearable than the risk of the attempt. This enemy is not your darkness. This enemy is actually something that was once trying to protect you, a part of you that learned early that being too visible was dangerous, that being too much invited punishment, that it was safer to hide the light than to have it extinguished by someone else's fear. Healing the chosen one means going back to that part, thanking it for its service, and letting it know that you are safe enough now to be seen. There is a reason that the title of this message uses the language of surveillance and intelligence, because the chosen one's journey is, at its core, a journey of being perceived by forces seen and unseen and learning how to stand in that perception without flinching. Most of us have been trained, through years of being misperceived, to shrink from attention, to make ourselves smaller, quieter, easier to digest, to translate ourselves into forms that fit the available containers, even when the translation costs us something essential. But the chosen one cannot afford this translation forever. At some point, and the timing is always precise, always exactly when it is needed, the chosen one has to stop translating and start transmitting, has to stop asking for permission to be what they are and start being it so completely, so unapologetically, so fully, that the systems that once tried to categorize them have no choice but to create a new category. You are not here to fit. You are here to expand what fitting means. Let me tell you about frequency, because this is important and it is something the spiritual traditions have known for thousands of years. that modern science is only now beginning to articulate. Everything that exists vibrates. Every atom, every cell, every thought, every intention, every prayer, every fear, every dream, all of it oscillates at a frequency, and like attracts like, not in the shallow, transactional way the self-help industry packages it, but in the deep, fundamental, physical way that the universe actually operates. When your internal frequency shifts, when you move from the frequency of survival to the frequency of purpose, from the frequency of fear to the frequency of faith, from the frequency of smallness to the frequency of your actual magnitude, the external world reorganizes around that shift. It has to. It is not mysticism. It is physics. It is the same principle that makes a tuning fork cause other tuning forks to vibrate in response. When you truly become the frequency of what you are called to be, everything that resonates with that frequency moves toward you, and everything that does not, every relationship, every situation, every identity that belongs to the smaller frequency begins to fall away. This falling away is not loss, it is the universe clearing the path. I want to speak directly to the ones who are in the most difficult chapter right now, the ones for whom the encouragement of destiny feels hollow because the present circumstances are heavy enough to make any talk of purpose feel abstract and unreachable. If you are there, if you are in the part of the story where the gap between who you feel called to be and where you actually are right now feels like a wound rather than a promise, I want you to hear this. The heaviness you feel is not evidence that you are wrong. It is evidence that you have been carrying something real. You do not feel the weight of something that does not exist. The fact that you can feel the pull of your calling, even when you cannot see a path to it, even when everything around you seems to contradict it, that feeling is the proof. The calling is not a comfortable invitation. The calling is a gravitational force. It does not ask for your comfort. It asks for your commitment. And your commitment does not require certainty. It does not require perfect conditions or ideal circumstances or the validation of people who may not have the capacity to see what you see. Your commitment requires only that you keep showing up in whatever form showing up is available to you today, and trust that the universe has not made an error in its targeting. The phrase "the analyst was reassigned" contains a truth that goes beyond the metaphor. In every system, bureaucratic, spiritual, social, personal, there are those whose job it is to evaluate you by the metrics of the existing framework, and for those whose purpose is to break frames rather than feed into them, the evaluation will always come up short. The analyst is working with yesterday's parameters. You are carrying tomorrow's possibilities. The analyst can only measure what the existing instruments were designed to measure. You are operating in dimensions that the existing instruments were not designed to detect. This is not arrogance. This is simply the nature of what it means to be ahead of the current consensus. Einstein could not be evaluated by the physics that came before him. The evaluators had to be replaced. Coltrane could not be evaluated by the musical critics who who came up through a previous aesthetic new ears had to develop. Every person who carried something genuinely new into the world first had to outlast the evaluators who were equipped only for old. You will outlast them too, not by defeating them, by becoming so undeniably what you are that the question of their evaluation becomes irrelevant. There is something specific about the chosen one's relationship with solitude that needs to be named, because it is one of the most misunderstood aspects of the path. The chosen one is often alone not because they are unloved, not because they are antisocial, not because they have failed at connection, but because the nature of what they carry requires periods of deep interiority that most social structures are not designed to accommodate. The vision needs silence to develop. The gift needs quiet to mature. The knowing that has been deposited in you requires time away from the noise of consensus reality to resolve into something usable, and so the chosen one retreats into caves, into deserts, into years of apparent inactivity, into long stretches of anonymity, not as an escape from life, but as a return to the source of their life. Every major spiritual tradition on earth knows this. Every prophet spent time in the wilderness. Every mystic had their dark night. Every artist knows the long studio silences that precede the breakthrough. The solitude is not the enemy of your purpose. The solitude is where your purpose is being refined. Now I want to talk about what happens after the refinement, because the message of the chosen one is not ultimately a message about suffering and endurance. Both are part of the territory. The message of the chosen one is ultimately a message about emergence, about the moment when the pressure that has been building for years finally finds its release, and what comes out is not what anyone expected, including, perhaps most importantly, you. The emergence is always surprising. It is always larger than what the person thought they were capable of. It is always more specific, more perfectly timed, more precisely fitted to the moment it arrives, and than any planning or intention could have produced. Because the emergence is not planned by the human who experiences it. It is coordinated by something much larger, something that has been watching the whole arc, something that knew the end from the beginning and designed the middle, all of it, including the hard parts with exquisite intentionality. The analyst who tried to process your file could not have predicted the emergence. The systems that flagged you as an anomaly had no category for what you would become, because what you are becoming has never existed before, in exactly this form, in exactly this moment. This is original. This is unprecedented. This is you. Let us talk about courage, because none of what has been said in these pages matters without it. The chosen one cannot fulfill their purpose from behind the glass of a comfortable detachment. The calling is not a spectator sport. The destiny that has been placed in you does not activate itself. It activates through your willingness to move toward it, even when the movement is scary, even when the path is not clear, even when the people around you cannot understand why you are making the choices you are making. Courage is not the absence of fear. Everybody knows that now. It has become a cliché. but cliches become cliches because they are true. Courage is the decision to move in the direction of your calling while the fear is still present. To let the fear walk with you rather than wait for it to disappear before you begin. And here is the thing about the courage of the chosen one that makes it different from ordinary courage. It is not primarily courage for yourself. It is courage for the people who are waiting on the other side of your fulfillment. There are people who will be healed by something you have not yet created. There are people who will be freed by something you have not yet said. There are lives that will be redirected toward meaning and beauty and possibility by an encounter with what you will become. Your hesitation is not only personal. Your delay is not only private. The people who need what you carry are real, and they are waiting. That is the weight of the calling. That is also the fire of it. I want to speak for a moment about the concept of divine protection, because the image of the intelligence operation in the title of this message is not accidental. There is a tradition across spiritual lineages, from the Hebrew prophets to the African griots to the Sufi masters to the indigenous wisdom keepers, that the ones who carry a significant purpose are also covered by a significant protection. Not protection from all difficulty. The stories make clear that difficulty is part of the curriculum, but protection from destruction. Protection from the thing that would end the story before it is complete. The prophet is thrown in the pit but does not die there. The visionary is imprisoned but emerges with the vision intact. The healer is exiled but carries the medicine with them. Something watches over the one who is needed. Something ensures that the story continues. This is not a passive comfort to be used as an excuse for recklessness, but it is a real transmission that has been confirmed by the experience of people across cultures and centuries who have walked this road before you. You have survived things that should have ended you. You have arrived at this moment having passed through fires that reduced other things to ash. The fact that you are still here, still reading, still searching, still moving toward the thing inside you that you cannot abandon is itself evidence of the protection. You are still here. The story is not over. The protection is still in place. Here is the final truth I want to leave with you, and I want to leave it slowly and carefully, because it is the most important one. The chosen one is not chosen because they are perfect. They are not chosen because they have no wounds, no doubts, no failures, no dark passages in their personal history. The chosen one is chosen specifically because of the particular combination of gifts and wounds and experiences and capacities that only their life could have produced. Your brokenness is not disqualifying. Your past is not disqualifying. Your confusion is not disqualifying. Your ongoing struggle is not disqualifying. The things that you have most wanted to hide, most wanted to disown, most wanted to leave behind as evidence of your inadequacy, those things are not separate from your calling. In many cases, they are the source material of your calling. The healer carries the wound that made them a healer. The teacher carries the confusion that made them a seeker. The leader carries the experience of having been led wrongly, and that experience is the root of their authority. You are not chosen despite your story. You are chosen through it. Every chapter of it, the beautiful ones and the ones you wish had gone differently, all of it has been in service of something. All of it has been shaping the specific person that the specific moment you are moving toward requires. You are not a mistake being corrected. You are a masterwork being completed, and the completion is closer than you think. So let them flag the photograph. Let the analyst be reassigned. Let the systems that were not built to contain you continue to fail at containing you, because that failure is not a threat to your purpose. It is a confirmation of it. The things that cannot hold you are telling you exactly how large you are. The categories that cannot contain you are telling you exactly how original you are. The evaluations that cannot accurately assess you are telling you exactly how unprecedented you are. And the universe vast, patient, precise, and absolutely committed to the completion of what it started when it sent you here. The universe is not confused by any of it. The universe has never been confused by you. The universe has been building toward you. And now, in this moment, in this breath, in this exact convergence of time and awareness and readiness, the universe is looking at what it has made and seeing that it is good. You are the chosen one. Not because the world has recognized it yet, because it is true, and truth does not require recognition to be true. It only requires the courage of the one who carries it to keep moving forward. Keep moving forward. The story is far from over. In fact, in every way that matters, it is just beginning.